What's going on, you guys? So, been making some progress on the car, did a couple things here and there this weekend. But one thing we did finally finish up, and we can check off the list, is the fuel system. So, got everything except for the injectors, but all the lines and everything are ran. So, I figured I'd give you guys a little walkthrough of what I did for the fuel system on this car. So, starting up in the engine bay, we got these Holley Sniper EFI rails. I was sent the wrong brackets, so I did have to modify the brackets for them. And that was kind of a pain in the ass, but we did get them to fit, and they bolted on, and everything's good now. They're still not the correct brackets, but hey, it'll work. The line that came with it, with this nice Vibrant line, I used Vibrant line on everything for this car. Anything that's soft line is all Vibrant. So, coming to the return, we have Vibrant -8 lines to this Earl's regulator. I do need to get a pressure gauge for it still. Then the return comes off and goes to these aluminum fuel lines down there. Now I use aluminum fuel lines to route the feed and return under the car because it's honestly a lot cheaper than buying the braided line to do all of it. So, you know, if you want to save yourself a couple bucks, it is a little bit more work to route that stuff, because it's not nearly as flexible as, you know, a braided hose or something like that. But it'll save you a couple bucks, and that's why I did it. It'll work out just fine, actually. It's the same thing over here on the feed. So -8 feed, all Vibrant line fittings, and then there's the aluminum tube, the aluminum fuel line that runs down and underneath the car as well. For the return system, I didn't run it the same route as I ran the feed. So the feed line actually goes up and over the subframe, runs up under the subframe, and then it routes up along there to the aluminum line under the car. And then there's the return with the radiator hoses. So it actually runs with those up through the firewall, or not the firewall, through the floor. And I have a heat shield there to kind of separate it from the passenger compartment. So the return line runs up in that little tunnel, then goes to the top of the tank right here. And then up on the top on this corner is the breather vent, which is routed right now, just looped up right here. Not 100% sure where I'm gonna finish mount that yet. Since I have the fill neck so high, I do kind of need to keep the vent a little bit higher, since if you overfill the tank and the vent is lower than the fill point and you fill it all the way up to the top of the filler neck, it'll actually pour out of the vent. So one thing to try to prevent that from happening is I put a fuel gauge on the car right here. I just drilled a hole and mounted all that. All this stuff needs to be finish worked and sanded and painted still, but yeah, we got a fuel gauge right back here, so when you're filling the car, you can actually watch the gauge as it fills up. So to do that, I actually had to drill and mount a fuel level sending unit into this fuel cell. Now, I know what some people are probably already thinking when you see that fuel cell, and no, that is not a fuel cell that will pass certain types of tech, which is one of the things I covered that I would need to change out to make this a legal vehicle for some applications. So, but I did have this fuel cell laying around, and for the stuff I plan on doing with the car, when it's finished, it'll work just fine and it'll pass tech. I've had this fuel cell in my GTO for years and never had an issue with it, so just kind of transferred it over into this car instead of, spending $700 on a new fuel cell. Cell stuff, I made a remote filler bracket for it, or a flange here. So basically just took the radiator hoses that I had laying around, the steel stuff, and just kind of welded a 90 onto the top of this plate. It's got a gasket under it, and then you can see the hose just goes over right here. It's just like a coupling hose. And that goes over to this remote filler neck that I built that mounts right on the quarter panel here. That way it is super easy to put fuel into the car. GTO, you always had to mess with getting the trunk off, and the wing was mounted to the chassis. So I basically wanted to set this car up so I don't need to take the trunk off to put fuel in it, make it easy to work with, easy to access, and just simplicity overall. For a fuel pump, we're running a AEM 400 liter an hour fuel pump, or it might be like 380 liter an hour fuel pump. So it's all, -8 out. So the lines are all -8 the whole way. I do have this port capped off, which I'm probably going to be adding a second 480 liter fuel pump and then just wire it in right here. So that way it just it'll go dual feed to one into it. Because I don't think that single pump is going to be nearly enough fuel for the amount of power we want to push. So I'm probably going to add another one of those pumps. The good thing about those pumps though is that they are relatively cheap. Those AEM pumps, you know, like I said before, you know, coming out from the GTO stuff and the RX-7, that's the same pump that we ran on both of those cars. And we ran one pump on my GTO and it made, you know, close to 800 horsepower on that pump. So, you know, no issues there. I know it'll make that kind of power, but I don't think it'll be enough for over 1,000. So the one thing I still need to get that I'm waiting on right now is injectors. I got to get injectors for it, so we're probably going to run 1,000cc injectors or 100-pound-an-hour injector, depending on, you know, who sells them. Some of them are in cc, some of them are in pound an hour. But yeah, that's just about it left on the fuel system, and that can be checked off. Turbo kit's almost done. Cooling system is almost done. I just need to get a water pump and a fan, and then the cooling system will be done, and we're going to be getting started on building the engine soon, hopefully. Anyways, that's going to be it for this one. Figure I'd give you guys a quick little walkthrough of the fuel system that I'm running on the car. So like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel and follow the build along, and I will catch you guys later.